I just had to click it fast or it will like go away.
We are live.
I think we're live. What's up, guys?
What's going on?
I need to change the view. Gallery view. There we go. It's just changing. Okay, hopefully nobody watches this from the very beginning because there's lots of awkward me getting Zoom set up on there. But anyways, how you guys doing?
What's up?
Danny and I are back, and we have a cool message for you guys today. It's just a conversation we were sort of having, behind the scenes in one of our regular calls. And it's like, shoot, we need to do this on a Facebook Live and tell people what's up, right? Because our goal for everyone, right, Danny, is to have an awesome life, right? A life where you look forward to. And the Seth Godin quote really sums it up. Instead of wondering when your next vacation is, maybe you should set up a life you don't need to escape from. Right, Danny?
Yeah, I cannot. I couldn't put it in any better words.
Yeah, that quote has always affected me. And I've actually heard people have said, you know what, I read that quote and I was like, I got to do something different. Yeah. So something is really powerful. And there's been so many people, especially in the last 10 years or so, that have just been popping up with these lifestyle entrepreneurs, right? And their message is lifestyle design, do what you actually want with your life. Design your life. Don't be a slave to your job. Don't do things that you hate. Don't put off living the life that you love and your bucket list items and things till someday in the future, because you don't have that someday may never come.
Yeah, you're not guaranteed any time. So
right. So what Danny and I are passionate about is helping you guys create a life that you do not need to escape from, okay? In whatever way possible. And real estate is the primary way that we teach that, because finances are the primary reason that people have a life that they want to escape from, is they don't have their finances in order. But the irony, Danny, is that there's ways to earn those finances, like doing something you don't hate now versus, putting up with some crap that you hate for 7 more years until you get enough rental properties. And then you can finally just cut the cord all at once. That's not really the most efficient way to do this, right?
Yeah. So, I think that a lot of people, this is myself included, you get fixated on where it is you want to go so much to the point that you don't take any action until it feels like you've got a straight path to that end result. But that straight path never comes. I had a friend who wrote a children's book one time, and he was talking. I asked him how he came up for the idea for the book. And one of the things he talked about was just how he didn't have the end in mind for the book. He was just writing it, and then the end came to him, and it was a great ending. But he was like, if I would have had that in mind from the beginning, I would have been like, how am I going to write a story that tells that? And this guy is a storyteller for his profession. He's a songwriter and singer and stuff like that. And I thought that was really powerful. Because when I look back on all the areas where I've made progress in my life, it's where I let go a little bit of the perfect, shiny end result that I was after. That was still my guiding light, but I didn't get so fixated on I can't do anything unless I'm doing all of that,
Right. So when did you,
what the smallest chunk you can do is, I think, the key.
So when did you, just tell us the brief epiphany story? When did you shift in your mind from being I got to trade time for dollars, who will give me a job, to being holy shit, I can do what I love and make money? What was the light bulb moment for you?
I would say there's 2 parts to it. The first part was after I got fired for the first and only time. I was a marketing manager. And long story short, when I got fired from that job, I questioned, what am I good at? I hadn't gone to college, or I hadn't finished it rather. And I was 25 and I had a wife and kid. So people depended on me. And I was like, well, man, I questioned, what am I good at? What am I good at? And I looked back at my resume and I looked at all the things I'd done at previous jobs. And I realized they were all management systems oriented stuff. So I changed the types of jobs I was going after. Instead of like going after what I thought maybe was sexy or cool, I started going after what I was good at, what I felt really confident my abilities doing. Mm-hmm. And then I tried to find jobs that were just a little bit more than what I knew. So it would force me to grow a little bit. So that was the first epiphany. It was like, oh, okay, I can figure out what I'm good at and then go get a job that pays me to do that. I'm not my own boss, but at least I get to spend most of my day doing what I like. The second part was after reading 4-Hour Workweek. And 4-Hour Workweek just kind of changed my mindset around the idea of how to be your own boss, you know, and mm-hmm. how to take what it is you do know how to do and sell that to the world.
That's awesome. For me, I had sort of a two-part story as well. Like, first of all, I was quitting the job and getting into wholesaling. I was like, okay, I can create my own job, and I don't have to answer to a boss. So this is like, I'm like, you know, a chicken that's like halfway hatched out of the egg. You know, I'm kind of like free, but I still created a job for myself that I didn't really enjoy. And then it wasn't until I got enough passive income to stop doing the wholesaling thing altogether, and I started doing this business, that it really opened my eyes. And I realized only after traveling down this road that I could have jumped straight to this all along. Like, I actually wanted to be an educator even since I was like in school and stuff. I wanted to be a professor in college. You know, I've always liked to teach. And, but I didn't give myself permission to do this until, you know, in the last couple of years. And when I was wholesaling, I was like bottling up. I want to teach. I'll just teach our internal company. I'll just do this weird podcast on the side. I'll just write this 100-page ebook and do nothing with it. You know, I just had all these little like bursts of like, you know, it was like I had a figurative like tap on the shoulder, like, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing this. I know, but I'm doing this wholesaling thing.
Well, we tried to, we almost did a crack at teaching via wholesaling when we were teaching landlords about how to get more out of their properties.
Right. And so anyways, like, the long story short is, in hindsight, I realized, wow, you know, like, there's no reason why I couldn't have done this right out of the gate. Yes, having a track record in real estate helps me teach real estate, right? But, you know, we're going to go over why it's not necessary for you to be like really good at something or an expert already to go ahead and dive into a passion that you have. There's many ways to skin this cat. Okay. And I think there's so many things that hold people back. And so the takeaway for you guys in this video that I hope that you get is that you say, holy shit, you know, I still want to invest. I still want to create passive income. But what if I can do what I love with my life sooner, you know, than me getting enough passive income to cover my bills? What if I could do it now? If you start doing that and you do it in tandem with buying rentals and getting your finances in order and getting passive income, it's the recipe for it's like getting on steroids, like in the terms of moving towards the life you want to live. Like, you won't fail. And you'll really be living the life you want to live. Because here's the thing, guys, is when you do get all the passive income in the world and you have freedom, you're not going to want to sit on the beach all day. Okay. People always tell me this, like, oh, I don't want to do anything. That's bullshit. You're going to hate your life. There's only so many cocktails you can drink, and only so many days you can sit on the beach. There's only so many Netflix shows you can watch. You're going to get bored. You're going to get depressed. You're going to want to have a purpose. Purpose in life is what makes people live to be over 100 years old and be happy and stuff, right? So you figure out what your purpose is now, you know, and make your work activities, your business stuff around that. Like, you'll already be doing what you're going to do once you get all the passive income, and you can do it early, pay your bills with it now. And they both work really, really well together. You're an entrepreneur and you're an investor. It's what Robert Kiyosaki tells everyone you need to do. That is the recipe to live an amazing life where you're giving back, you have a purpose, you're not worried about money, all this stuff.
It's the energy. It's synergistic, because when you don't hate what you're doing, then you can take the energy from that and put that towards your whatever you're doing to build your rental portfolio. And then your wins there feed your energy to keep on doing what you're doing until eventually you don't have to have any type of job. Your only business or your only source of income can be passive.
Exactly. So when people get into this, Danny, or when people are watching this, a lot of people are probably going to say, "This sounds great, Brian, but my passion is like playing basketball, and there's no way that." Well, actually, that's kind of the next piece. The first objection that I get a lot is, I don't know what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about a lot of different things. How do I decide on something? How do I know? Right? Or I'm not passionate about anything. Let's actually tackle that one first, Danny. People that say, I don't know what I'm passionate about. I've actually coached people, Danny, and they're just like, I don't have time for myself anymore. All I do is I work and I go home and I watch the kids and go to bed and watch TV. Like, I don't even know what I would want to do, right? If I were to do something. So, what would you say? What do you say to that person? What do they do?
Well, I mean, it's been said many times, but essentially, like, what do you do when you're with your friends? Like, what do you talk about? What's your topics of conversation? What are the stuff you get excited about talking to someone over a cup of coffee or a beer or something like that? And I would say start there. I had a couple different ones, and I don't think I would have settled on something had I not, picked. But we'll talk a little bit about that more of that later. But explore. Really, you got it up on the board. It's not really a better word for it than explore. I got a over here in the corner. I almost keep it like a trophy. Is a little keyboard with like a drum pad at the top. It's called it's like a Nova key or something. Novatech. Anyone out there who is into music knows what it is. But this is a little USB keyboard, and it was one of the things I did when I was exploring. What do I like to do? Well, I love music. I love electronic music. Maybe I can make that. I didn't know if it would become a money thing or not. But it's just one of the many things that like I let myself get into. I felt it out and decided whether or not I wanted to stay.
Yeah.
And I think that's the process of exploring.
Exactly. And this isn't easy, guys. Like, I remember going to a Brendan Burchard event, and and you guys probably see me like, oh, he's a passionate guy. He loves what he does. He knows what he loves. Like, I didn't always know this. I went to an event, Brendan Burchard, and he was talking about like how to discover your passions. And he said what you said. He said, like, what are the things that you can't stop talking about? You're at the coffee shop with your friend, you've had too much caffeine, and you're blah, 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 or you're at having beers with them later that day, and you're just like giving them an earful. Joe Rogan said he used to do this to his friends all the time, like when he was younger, about everything he was excited about. And I'm the same way. And then he would say, like, go look at your bookshelf. Like, what kind of books are on there that you're reading? And then ask other people, like, what am I passionate about? What are the things that I just light up about, when we start talking? And that if you like say something about it, you're going to get an earful from me because it's like my thing, right? Sometimes you don't even know. So you go ask other people. And I had to do this. Like, I literally had a list of like I was like going around my house, looking at my bookshelf, talking to Carly, like, thinking about what types of things like gave me energy and got me excited, and like I was annoying people about too much, like I had to really think about that to figure out, to narrow it down, right? And so I ended up with a list of like 5 things at that point. But my next problem, Danny, was like I didn't know which one to pick, right? I didn't know how to decide on one of those things. So what would you say to that?
I mean, deciding is difficult because especially if you've narrowed it down to a couple passions, it's hard to be like, man, well, I like this one, but will this one make me money? And you start asking yourself too many questions. So you somewhat get immobilized, or you're afraid of committing to one thing and then finding out that that's not what you want. So I would say the first thing is throw that out. Don't worry about committing to something and then losing interest in it. Mm-hmm. That's part of exploring. So it feeds into the deciding part of it. And I would say, as far as the way that I know I decided, it had to do with when I got fired, like I mentioned. I was like, okay, well, I'm passionate about marketing, and I'm passionate about small business and building systems and helping people achieve more and stuff like that. And so for me, the reason I decided on what I did is just because you just have to make the decision. I just decided that this was the one. Now, I could have decided something else. I could have decided marketing and probably become more proficient at that and started doing that as my, what I got paid money to do. But I think it's just a matter of just picking something and going with it as far as you can. I think I had picked marketing before, maybe less consciously. And then, what happened? It got kind of shut down for me. Could I have persevered over that? Sure. But instead, what it did is it eliminated something out of my repertoire of passions so that I got, focused in on one, which was management.
Yeah, exactly. All the advice I got on this thing was similar. It was like, yes, we know you're passionate about everything, Brian, but you got to start with one thing. You're never going to be successful if you're diluted over like 5 different things, and you got to start with one thing. And I was like, well, God, real estate's like currently like what I'm always thinking about, talking about, passionate about helping people with, but I want to help people with like personal development. I want to help them with like, business structure and marketing and sales and entrepreneurship and being a better leader and like being happier. And I want to even help people like in health and fitness and spirituality and relationships and all this stuff. And I learned that, one thing is that you can actually incorporate a lot of those topics into real estate, right? Because there's a lot of personal development that goes into it. There's a lot of time management or, using like software, like marketing. But another thing is that like when you pick your topic and you go all in, and you get some success, you build an audience, you get some momentum, you can shift, you can transition to other topics after that. So you're not like saying, well, for the rest of my life, the only thing I'll ever be able to do is this one thing. It's just what you start out at, right? And you really do have to decide. So like, these are not easy things, guys. I know it's not easy to figure out what you're passionate about. It's a big question. And I know it's not easy. It's even harder to decide on one thing, okay? But you have to. And it's the same path that all the people that you admire took. The people that are now doing lots of different things, like a Tim Ferriss, he started out with one thing, right? He didn't start out teaching 4-hour body, 4-hour chef. It was 4-hour work week, right? And then he springboarded to all those other things. So you have to explore your options and you got to decide what you want to do. If you want to stop trading time for dollars, if you want to be able to monetize something that you love, you got to pick it, okay? And dedicate, let's say, 2 years to that topic, okay? Without changing it, you're going to go hard on something for 24 months, okay? The next step is monetize. And this one is also difficult for people. You can see why people don't do this, right, Danny? Because we're like, it's like why don't you climb 4 huge mountains real quick? Like it's not easy. It's scary.
Well, and just throw this out real quick on 1 and 2. Like if you're still struggling in that area, if you feel like that's the zone you're in, do more personal development, because exploring and then deciding on some things comes from knowing yourself better. So that's like the thing, know thyself. So, commonly used, whatever, old Latin proverb or something like that. That's exactly where this all comes from. So if you don't know what you're passionate about, or you feel like you have too many options and you're not deciding on something, do more personal development and it will come to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Read more books. It's really,
absolutely.
Read more books, have more experiences,
go to other countries, like try new hobbies, like you could literally try a new thing every week. I'm going to try jujitsu this week. I'm going to go rock climbing next week. I'm going to go painting the week after that. I'm going to go learn how to brew beer the week after that. I'm going to travel and like volunteer in a third world country after that, and it doesn't all have to cost a lot, but that is like, especially if you're like younger people will say this more because they've just had less experiences because they've lived less. They don't know what they want to do, but they're living like a cooped up life where they just go to work and go home. It's kind of sad. It's like, get out there, experience the world. If you're a person whose eyes are open, you're going to fall in love with something. You're going to become passionate about something, and it may not be your thing forever. You might be a 18-year-old dude who's real passionate about video games right now. Just do video games. It doesn't matter that when you're 50 or 60 years old, that might be a little out of style for your age. You know what I mean? You'll probably be onto something else by then, but that's a great springboard into this. One thing, Danny, that everyone always gets hung up on next, if we can get them to believe that they can find something they're passionate about, they can choose one thing, they'll say, well, there's no money in that. Or how in the world would I market that, right? Or like, how am I going to, make that pay the bills, right? And, like example I bring up all the time is people like, I want to be a professional baseball player or whatever. That's what I've always wanted to do since I was a kid. You know, and you're telling me that like I can go do that just because I decided to do it. I can go be a professional baseball player. And you know, what would you say to that, Danny? Somebody who's like in that, say they have a passion, something really weird or impossible seeming, you know, because that's a lot of people's passion. I want to throw frisbees all day, you know, like what do you say to that person to get them to believe that they could actually make money doing it?
Well, the first thing I'll say is that this is usually what this is step 3, monetizing, is what will keep people from maybe even deciding, because they're thinking about how will I monetize it and they can't think of anything, right? So they might be immobilized or not choose certain things because they're not sure how they can monetize it yet. So the first thing I'll say is on these topics, look to see what all is out there in terms of opportunities to do like work that relates to it. So you may be passionate about baseball. And so I'll just use this example since I know we're going to get to it anyways. But I was always have these conversations with people, and the sports thing is actually what would always stop me. I was like, I've not thought about that. Well, everything else you want to do, you can, you're like everything else you're passionate about, except for sports. I forgot about that. Professional sports, maybe not. But the truth is that around professional sports, there's an entire ecosystem of ways that you can provide value or get involved. And so the example I'll use is the guy who did Facebook ads for us for a little while, Nick Ercolano. He's got a YouTube channel and he talks about fantasy football and about like everything around fantasy football, how to put teams together, you know, strategy, you know, and obviously that fades into just the going ons in sports. So he gets to talk and have conversations with people about stuff like that. And the way he monetized that interest in football was to take fantasy, which there's a lot of money. I think it's like $2 billion is in the fantasy football gaming. That's a number I feel like I've seen before, but don't take me to the bank on it. But he built, he created like I think it was like a report more or less. Every year he makes like a new report about how you can, you know, build the best fantasy football team and his recommendations and the research and stuff like that. So he did this work and now other people are willing to part with a little bit of their money to do it. And when you can sell something digital like that, maybe I don't want to go on a tangent too much, but when you can do something digital like that, then you have a huge audience. But just to back up from that in general, you can monetize almost anything in this current day and age because we need subject matter experts. There's so much information that's out there now. All you have to do, if this is your passion, you're going to be better at distilling that and being able to speak to people about it. Because what we were talking about earlier, that's what you do over coffee or over beers. You take all this complex stuff that people are like, oh, I don't know how, blah, 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 could even happen. And you take that and you just, oh, well, here's how, and you tell them, you know,
right.
That's exactly it. So the reality is that even we can talk about specific jobs that you can get into to monetize what you're passionate about. But if nothing else, you can become a subject matter expert in it on the internet. And you become the person to talk to about fantasy football, the person to talk to, you know, about whatever your subject, you know, marketing or entrepreneurship or leadership. Mm-hmm. All of these different topics that exist all need people to take the complex parts of it and distill it for other people to understand it. And so in that way, everything's monetizable.
And another tip I really love, Danny, is like from Brendan Burchard, is he's saying, so some people like they either don't, well, this is usually not true, but they think they don't have any skill in anything, right? Or they might want to like enter an industry that they haven't currently already succeeded in. Like what if like you wanted to be like a wealth coach or something, but you weren't wealthy, right? You can't do that. Like you can't honestly do that. I'm going to teach you how to get rich if you're not rich, right? Here's what you can do though. You could take the journalist angle and say, I go out and I interview a new millionaire every single week. And I find out how they got rich. And I put it on my podcast, and I'm going to want to get to 100 episodes. I'm going to write a book about my, you know, interviews and summary. And you start to become the, you know, the expert on like how to get wealthy because you've interviewed all those people. You're not being inauthentic. You're not saying that you're wealthy yet. The irony is that you will get wealthy through the process of both like monetizing that business model and just being around those people and learning from them.
Yeah.
But the journalist angle is great for something that you don't have any results in, because you're just I just bring the people together. You want to learn how to be wealthy? I got this wealthy guy here. Boom. I'm just the vessel through which it comes. And then you can become an expert through that method. It's pretty interesting. And let's say that's not, you didn't want to be a journalist or whatever. Like there's literally an infinite amount of ways that you can monetize your thing, especially with social media. You do have to sell something though. Okay. So like the journalist thing, maybe your podcast would become so popular because you have such great guests on there that you sell ad space, or you eventually do sell that book, or you package up your top 10 interviews and you sell that as a product or something like that. And no, this isn't going to make you an overnight millionaire, but you're going to get some revenue, some traction in an industry that you actually love versus like going to trade your time for dollars. You have to start small, right? I'm not making tons and tons of money from this real estate investing education business yet, right? But I'm making some, and I'm doing what I love doing it. And, and it was only now that I'm like, wow, anyone can do this. There's a way where you can do it that makes sense for you based upon where you are, even if you have no skills. Be the journalist. What's up, Pablo? Thanks for watching, man.
Hey, man.
So guys, if you're tuning in just now, like just to summarize what we're talking about here is like, we talk a lot about investing, and you guys get at this point that investing for passive income will change your life. Okay. But you don't have to wait until you have like 12, 15, 20, 30 houses, 50 houses to quit your job and do what you love. Okay. I don't want you guys putting things off. I want you to do this now. All right. And we're talking about how to take something that you love, or if you don't know what it is, how to find it, and then how to monetize it. So you can do something, alongside the job that you're doing right now, and you can quit that job even faster and continue to use all the money to fuel your investments. So we talked about finding what you're passionate about, picking one. We talked about how to monetize that, how to sell something, decide what you're going to sell. How would you go about marketing yourself, Danny? You do small business on the side, coaching and consulting. What are some of the most effective ways that you've found for, let's say, for no money, for you to market your services so that people will actually give you money from the things that you want to monetize?
Sure. So if you're not spending money, then you're going to have to spend time. And so my time oftentimes gets spent I have a podcast myself where I interview entrepreneurs about the issues that they go through, not only just getting to this phase, exploring, deciding, monetizing, but then also just like, how do they manage their business, how they've built it. So I have a ton of stories about people who've made this leap that I could talk about, who went from not 9-to-5 job that they hated, took their passion and found out little ways to monetize it and have built up. Mm-hmm. But that's what that podcast gives me an opportunity to speak to people who are highly qualified. I got an interview coming up with someone with a PhD. I got another guy who's a former E-Myth coach who does his own consulting now. So this podcast allows me to create value for my listeners, and I get to live in the world where I'm at, and it establishes me as a small business expert. So that's one way, right? So you can create a podcast, which is incredibly easy to create a podcast. And that gets you known for the thing that you want to be a subject matter expert in. I also attend like networking events and whatnot, where, you spend your time getting to know people, other people in the industry. Those people know people that you should know. And it kind of has a compounding benefit to where your network continues to grow of people who will spread your word of mouth, or rather will be word of mouth for your business. So there's a lot of ways to market yourself without having to shell out a bunch of dollars on Facebook ads and stuff like that. It's all about just creating value. And if you're creating value, then people will recognize that and they'll want to be involved with you in some way. And then also, as a result of them being involved with you, it expands your reach. When your reach gets expanded, you're in front of more eyes. And that's literally what marketing is, getting in front of eyes. So
absolutely. And one thing I want to add to that is a concept called the Dream 100, which is something that you do on your podcast. You just didn't say that word specifically, but basically once you get clear on, you're going to monetize, like who is the customer, who's the person that you want to help, right? And for us, like, I'll just give you the real world example that's, this group is about, is we want to help people who are currently real estate investors, specifically wholesalers, figure out how to get passive income, which is usually the thing they wanted in the first place, so that they can quit wholesaling, quit trading their time for dollars, and actually live a life they enjoy, right? And so who's the customer avatar? Wholesalers, right? Who else already talks to wholesalers? Well, tons of people. Like, if you are watching this and you are someone who has like a big Facebook group of wholesalers, I'm coming for you, right? We're coming for you because we want to work with you and help your audience like learn the thing that we teach, right? And so that person who owns that Facebook group would be one of our dream 100, like the 100 people that it would be a dream to do business with, to work with in some way, because they already have a huge pool of your targeted customer sitting right there. And it doesn't cost you money to reach out to them and have them on your podcast and do something nice for them, or write a guest post for their blog, or help them in some way and build those relationships. That's something that, like, it took me many years, and I'm still figuring out, but like took me many years of studying marketing to realize that, wow, this Dream 100 concept is like actually all you really need from a marketing perspective. It's like the fastest way to scale a business, right? And it doesn't cost anything except time, like you said, Danny. So just know that, there's a very wise way to approach starting your own business where it will work, and it'll work way faster than like the old model of, I'm going to get some business cards printed out and hang them up on the bulletin board up at Kroger or something. Like, that's not really how you run a business anymore. Like, there's a way faster way to scale a business than what most people think. So yes, you got to like learn some stuff about business, but marketing your services, it doesn't mean like just, posting on your own Facebook page, like where you're going to get only the people that are going to see it are your mom and your grandma or something, right? You need to go where your customers actually are. Like you, Danny, you have small business owners on your podcast, right? Yep. And then, what do? You consult with small business owners, right? So you're literally like networking with the people that, you want to work with. Or you might, you have people on your podcast who are also like small business consultants. They talk to the same customer you do. That is the fastest path. David Maradiaga says, when you add value up front, people are more likely to do business with you. Absolutely, man. That's the key. And, that's, I guess, where marketing is going now. And maybe you can speak a little bit to that, Danny. It's like, the old way of marketing was just buy my stuff, right? But now, you remember what we had drawn here earlier when we were on our call today. Like, there's a more efficient way of doing things, which is what?
Well, I mean, it's providing value. I mean, I think when I look at marketing, how it used to be, and you can get this from really just looking at old ads. If you look at old ads, advertisements, whether it was direct mail ads or like posters and things like that, advertisements, there was almost like the old way of doing it was like you had to somewhat manipulate someone's ego into making them feel deficient without this thing that you're giving them. But I feel like now it's better. Like because I think people got tuned out to all those. Yeah, I don't need a Whopper, from Burger King every day of the week or whatever, like Burger King wanted you to have, or like, no, Pepsi is not going to complete my life. Like, people started to tune out the BS marketing. So now you do have to add value up front, but that's the perfect way to validify the fact that you can help someone with something. And so when you provide value up front, like was commented, like, then you're proving that you have the capacity to do the thing that you're promising to do. It's honestly, I think it's just a better way of marketing. It feels better, than having to be like, all right, well, how do we convince people to buy this piece of plastic at a, more money than it's just like, when you compare the ways of old marketing versus what I see new marketing is now, it's night and day. It doesn't mean that other stuff hasn't stopped. It still happens for sure. But I think in the space of where, if you want to become a subject matter expert so that you can charge money for the things that you know about, specific the little niches that it's got to be value based. You got to do that. You got to put in the work.
And it's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur than right now. And all the other old entrepreneurs will tell you this. Like they used to have to get in like the yellow pages and get on like the local TV channels, and they had to like, run ads in the newspaper and get on the radio. And there was all these gatekeepers, and it was really expensive, and it wasn't very targeted. And now, like with YouTube, you're basically creating your own TV channel. With a podcast, you're creating your own radio station. With a blog, you're creating your own book. I mean, I could go on and on, like, right, newspaper, yeah. With your Facebook group like this one, you're creating your own networking group, basically, without us having to go rent a hotel room downtown every Thursday night and get you guys up there and provide some Subway sandwiches and cookies or something. I don't know what it would take, right? But it wouldn't be nearly as efficient as it is to just get on Facebook. And this is all free stuff, right? So all the old entrepreneurs are like, man, you kids have it good today. We used to have to hustle and grind and like send direct mail to people. And now we can send an email. And like, it's just crazy how you watch people build their followings on Instagram. Like they're just on Instagram all day, just documenting their life and just like, helping people, having lots of conversations in their DMs and, offering up free things. And they're eventually going to sell you something, right? Because everyone needs money, but they're helping people, So that's the cool thing about marketing. It's not only easier now, but the way to do it right is, like you said, the way that feels the best, where you're genuinely adding value. You care about people. Yes, you're going to sell them something at some point. That's why there's a link at the bottom of this, you click see more. I have a link where you guys can enter your email to find out about our group coaching program that's going live next week. But like it's never been a better time to do this process, to figure out your passion, to go all in, start a podcast. Like you don't have to be good. My first handful, I recorded like 20, people don't know this, but I recorded like 20 podcast episodes that never made it to iTunes.
The last episodes.
Yeah. Because I was practicing. And so I would just like I'd leave the gym and I'd clip the thing on my hoodie and just drive around town and just like talk about whatever I wanted to talk about. And sometimes there would be like 3 or 4 full minutes of silence. I like got distracted or I didn't know what to say, or I would just start like humming to myself. I knew they would never go live, but I was just like trying to get used to talking, just like, and not sounding terrible. Right. And so you guys can do this too. Like I've gotten way more comfortable on video and on podcasts in just like about 1 year or less. And it just took repetition. There was really nothing to it.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with everything that you're saying 100%. It's like, it is the best time right now to become an entrepreneur. Like you were saying, it's crazy. I have so many friends who've done this. I want to give a few examples. That way people realize that this is real. But like I have a friend who's a CPA. Like they were at a firm, and they, instead of staying at that firm, they figured out a way to just do it on their own. They knew what they needed to know to help small business owners. And so they got on, but there's a couple different platforms, by the way, we'll throw out here. Upwork is one. Oh shoot, I can't remember. The other one actually might've been bought by Upwork. Upwork is one of the main ones for sure, where you can just go post what it is you do and people will find you if they need that thing, or you can find other people who need what you have as a freelancer. So that's what they became an Upwork, or they became a freelancer on Upwork, and they get people, they do CPA work for people on a very specific basis all over the world or all over the United States. I got another friend who was an audio video guy in college, and he ended up wanted to get into filmmaking. So he was in music production. He wants to get into filmmaking. What he's been doing until then is he's been staying in the whole audio video world, the filmmaking world, by taking what he does know and making voiceovers and doing editing and putting music together for short indie films and stuff like that. And now he's got a gig with Nickelodeon. I've got another, man, I have lost the other guy. Anyways, there's so many examples I could give you. I don't want to do them all right now. One I wanted to throw out there too, just because also Brian, this guy was just cool. His name was it's Mark Rebelet or Rebelet. I'm not sure it's a French word, Rebilet. And he was working a 9 to 5 that he hated. I heard his story the other day, working a 9 to 5 that he hated. He loved making loops and doing stuff with like sound pedals and making music and stuff like that. And he just started putting that stuff on YouTube. No one was watching it. No one was seeing it, but he kept on doing it. Over time, more people saw it, more people loved it. And now he's on radio shows like all across the world now.
Wow.
He's actually coming to Nashville soon too. So like all of this stuff, it's a matter of just following that process we talked about. Explore, figure out what it is you like to do. That might be through college. It might be through personal development. It might be through traveling, but explore, decide on what it is. Pick something. You might be passionate in a lot of things, but pick one thing and go with it. Go with it until you're tired of it. And when you're tired of it, you'll find the next thing. Mm-hmm. And then you monetize that by not limiting yourself to like, oh, what are the ways that other people have done it? Figure out the best way that you can, and then provide value so that people realize you know what you're talking about.
Absolutely. All with the purpose of, waking up and doing what you enjoy.
Yeah.
Right. Versus trading time for dollars. And here's the thing, guys, is like, I've never made more money than I have as my time as an entrepreneur, like way more money than I ever made at any job I ever had. Right. Like wholesaling houses and all that. And when you're making more money and you pour that into investments, that's when you become truly wealthy. Robert Kiyosaki talks about this all the time. Like when you become a business owner, that's when you make lots of money. And then when you use that money to invest, that's when you become truly, truly wealthy, right? The wealthiest of all people in the world are business owners and investors, right? They own a huge business. They make lots of money. They turn around and make that money make them 10 times more. Or, it's just like, it's a foolproof recipe. If you have your own business, there's no ceiling on your income, because this will actually eventually do way better for you than any job ever could, if you stick with it. You start your own thing. And then you turn around and you're pumping that into investments and you're 10xing the money even once again, like, and just putting it in like real estate that just keeps making more money for you, going up in value. That's the path. Okay. And you think about it. So you're doing the thing that makes you the richest out of everything you could do in the world, and the thing that you like the most. You know what I mean? There's really no better life to live, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, and just throw this out there too. If the idea of starting a business and going solo is really, daunting to you, or you don't see a world where you're able to make progress in your spare time outside of your 9-to-5, find a 9-to-5 that leverages what you're passionate about. So you might have got a college degree that puts you in some job that's giving you the money that you'd like, but it sucks and it's not interesting to you. You're not engaged there. Well, take a job. If it means a little bit less money, everyone knows deep down that money doesn't buy happiness. Yeah, it can buy you a jet ski, but it doesn't buy happiness. Take a little bit less money and go take a job in some 9-to-5 where at least it is in the industry you want to be in long term.
Right.
Have the goal to become an entrepreneur still, but you can go get a 9-to-5 and that leverages your unique skill set, pays you regularly like a 9-to-5 does. But it improves what it is. It's that the number 2 up there. It's the deciding. It'll help you reinforce whether or not that's the thing you want to do, and then you can branch out from there. But there's no excuse really. Like I always have this discussion with people because I believe it's possible. You can do it. It's just a matter of following. This process is not unique. We didn't copyright this or anything. But just following this process, following these steps, it'll get you there. For sure.
Absolutely. Well, we got to go. We're out of time, guys, but thank you all for watching this. And anyone who watches it later, comment down below. Let us know what your passion is and what you feel, if anything, is holding you back from monetizing that now. We're glad to support you and answer your questions. And guys, we're launching a amazing group coaching program next week for literally like the price of a gym membership. We're going to be meeting with you guys in a closed Facebook group a couple times a week to coach you on how to invest in real estate, get passive income. There's all kinds of cool bonuses we're going to throw in. It's an offer that's worth way more than what I'm charging for it. So it's only going to be open Monday through Thursday of next week. If you want to be notified about that, click the link into your email and we will see you guys later.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Peace.